Hi guys! Welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new legal advice content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first one is titled, "Woke up this morning to an eviction notice for failure to pay rent despite me not being able to contact my landlord for the past 2 months. Ohio. For the past 2 months, November and December, I have not been able to contact my landlord at all. He has simply fallen of the face of the earth. He has not returned any of my calls and has not replied to any of my texts or emails. Despite this, I have still tried to pay my rent to no avail. Both times I tried to pay online only for the payments to be declined on his end within seconds. I have sent 2 money orders by mail only for them to be returned a few days later. When I woke up this morning, there was a notice on my door to vacate the property within 10 days for failure of payment again. I have tried calling and calling with no answer. I even went over to his house/office and knocked on the door and still nothing. Where do I go from here? I don't really have time or want to be tied up in court, and I obviously don't want to be homeless in 10 days. Obviously, someone is taking care of the properties and business, or I wouldn't have gotten a notice. There is no record, at least on my banking app, of me trying to pay online, and he can just lie and say he never received the money orders. He is kind of a slumlord, so I imagine he is going to try and lie about things. Update. My post got more attention than I thought it would, so I thought I would post an update on the situation. So, I finally got in contact with my landlord. I asked him where he has been and that I have tried to contact him several times so I could pay my rent. He was very aggressive and a huge dick, telling me that it is none of my business where he has been and that all he cared about was the rent. Again, I tried explaining to him that I indeed have tried to pay several times, both online and with money orders. I sent him pictures of the texts I sent him as well as the call log from my phone showing all the times I have called. He still is claiming it's none of my business where he has been and to quit being nosy. I was just trying to show him proof that I did try to contact him and pay, but whatever, I don't really care. I tell him I would just like to pay the 2 months rent and move on. He said he will not be accepting any more payments from me and that it was up to the court. I still have the money orders and the envelope, but according to the mailman that I talked to, they have smaller distribution centers for local mail and they don't stamp those with a postmark, so I am screwed on that end. I will have to go to my bank on Monday and get a statement, and hopefully it will show where I tried to pay online. I believe for some reason my landlord just doesn't want me here anymore for whatever reason and purposely avoided payment so he would have a reason for eviction, because as far as I know you can't just evict someone for no reason. So, I guess we will see what happens in court. Hopefully once the judge sees that I do have money orders and proof that I did try to contact him, it will go in my favor. Otherwise I might be homeless in the next week or so. The next one is titled, "Closing on house on Christmas Eve and concerned someone may be living there." I understand if that sounds ridiculous. My husband and I are in the process of buying a former rental property. The guy we're buying the house from says that the previous owner had evicted the last tenant almost 2 months ago, at which point he bought the house with the intent of remodeling, and for reasons that aren't mine to share, he had to put it back on the market. He went on to say that the guy had left all of his belongings and we would have to get rid of everything as he lives too far away. Okay, no problem. We walked into the house yesterday to find food, baby pictures, clothing, etc. as well as the utilities still on. The city says utilities are about to be shut off for non-payment, so it's possible he really did just leave without bothering to take anything. If that's the case, still no problem. My question: what am I legally able to do if this guy is still living there? Would he be considered a tenant or a squatter at that point? Could I get myself into trouble if I change the locks and leave my number so I can at least try to get his things back to him? In Arkansas, if that helps any. Update. I didn't have time yesterday to respond to comments, but I want to thank everyone who took the time. Fortunately, it won't be an issue. The city stepped in because of a related problem to inform the current homeowner that it was his job to make sure the previous tenant was actually gone. When we passed by the house today, almost all signs of an occupant were gone and everything that was left was on the curb for trash pickup. Added bonus. This problem showed me that I'm moving to a town full of people who care about people, and as a result I'm even more confident that we're making the right move. Thank you, guys. The next one is titled, "Can my landlord ask me to sign a lease again during an existing lease?" I live in Colorado Springs, Colorado. My landlord recently let me know that I will need to sign my lease again due to a glitch in the system, and I am wondering if this is something I should do or if this is a red flag. I have not received it yet, but she claimed that the dates and prices will be identical, at least. I'm going to read it first to make sure it's the same. My two main questions are this. 1. Should I sign this if the leases are completely identical? This seems like it wouldn't be unreasonable to me, but I'm not sure. 2. Should I sign this if anything has changed? I am not sure if that's legal for them to do. I'm sure I'm just being overly cautious, but I'd like to be sure. If I've left out any important information, please let me know and I will add it to the post. Update. In my last post, I mentioned that my landlord wanted me to sign a new lease as a result of a glitch in the system. I was told that my rent amount and lease dates would be identical. After finally receiving the new lease, that turned out to be true. However, there was at least one change. Our lease buyout increased from $200 to 1 month's rent. Personally, I don't consider that a big deal on its own. I'm certainly annoyed, but if this were a new lease, I'd probably just sign it and not make a big deal about it. What I want to know is, am I under any obligation to actually sign this? And perhaps more importantly, is it even a good idea to bother raising a fuss about it? It seems like it's not worth causing trouble over, but the fact of the matter is that the terms did change. The landlord claims that this is the accurate lease that all tenants have. I suppose they're suggesting they gave me an inaccurate one last time. I also noticed that there was prorated rent listed, in an amount about half of our monthly rent, and I assume that this is just due to the time the contract was written up. I asked and they said that there would be no additional fees or anything, and I have this in writing, so would it be legal of them to charge me this prorated rent if I signed this lease? As usual, please let me know if I left out any relevant information. I feel like I'm being unnecessarily cautious, but I have fairly severe anxiety issues, so I want to be sure that I'm doing things right and not causing any problems for myself. Thank you. The next one is titled, My Father and Stepmother Died, Leaving Me, 19 Male, and My Stepsister, 8 Female. My stepsister's father, who has previously never cared about her, is getting full custody and has told me he won't allow me to visit. Is there anything I can do? Washington. Hi, so my life is falling apart. As the title says, a few weeks ago my father and my stepmother were killed in a car accident. They have been married for 7 years, and my stepmother had a daughter from a previous marriage who is 8 years old. I love her unconditionally as if she were my own sister, and I would fight tooth and nail to keep her safe. She has no immediate family other than her father in the area, so he is going to receive full custody of her. I don't know if subjective opinions are allowed in posts like this, but this guy is ducking a hole. The reason my stepmother left him is because he was abusive, which was never reported to the police, but I know several people who have witnessed it firsthand, so it absolutely 100% happened, and the reason he was abusive was because my stepsister was born and he didn't want a child. As a result, he has never given crap about her, never asked to see her, and has never wanted anything to do with her until now. I was at home with my stepsister a few days ago and he knocked on the door. I opened it and we had a really ugly conversation about what was going to happen to my stepsister now that her mother and my father were dead. I told him that if he did end up having custody, I would want to be seeing her as often as possible as I consider her my family. He told me, verbatim, that's not gonna happen, son. I don't want my daughter spending time with half-caste blood. He's referring to the fact that my father is mixed race, and that I am too as a result. I slammed the door. I was absolutely livid, which brings me to this post. So basically, I have a few questions. First, can anything be done to stop him having custody? There are no police reports about his abuse, and his criminal record is clean by all the research I have completed. Third, at the very least, could I contend in a court that I have visiting rights to her? I'm not actually related to her, so I'm not sure what the standing is there. Third, if it's not possible to force allowed visits, is there any way I can straight up adopt my stepsister? I have an office job that pays well, so financial security wouldn't be a problem. I have an apartment of my own, and I would be 100% willing to be her full-time guardian. Edit. I want to make it absolutely clear that my sister does not want to live with her dad, and she says she wants to live with me. Thank you so much to anyone who responds to this. I'm at my wit's end and I will do literally anything to keep my stepsister close to me, and I don't care about the cost. Update. My father and stepmother died, leaving me 19 meters and my stepsister 8F. My stepsister's father won't allow me visitations. I got custody. So, after one of the most stressful months of my life, I can happily tell you all that I got custody of my stepsister. I did as many of you suggested and got a family lawyer who was one of the most kind and helpful people I've ever met in my life. I told her the circumstances of my stepmom and dad's death through tears and sobbing, and then told me she'd do everything she possibly could to help me. After my stepsister's bio dad was informed that I would be trying to get full custody, he basically folded within hours. The lawyer told me that it wouldn't have mattered anyway though. She said that because he hadn't visited her for such an extended period of time that it was considered abandonment in the eyes of the law, and the likelihood of him specifically getting custody was unlikely because of this. After her bio dad said he didn't want my stepsister, I then spent weeks and weeks filing out the right papers and seeing the right people. I've never signed so many things in my entire life. Because my stepsister had no biological family other than her shithead dad, I was given custody on a silver platter, according to my lawyer. Her bio dad didn't ask for visitation rights, and it appears he didn't even care in the first place. He just wanted my stepsister for no reason other than to further upset me. Yesterday, I signed the last piece of paper that confirmed that I had 100% custody of my stepsister. After I signed, we both cried and cried for hours. We're both working on processing the death of her mom and my dad. As I write this, she's asleep next to me with her head on my shoulder. The past 2 months have hands down been the worst of my entire life. I consider meeting my stepsister the best that's ever happened to me and adopting her as the single best decision I've ever made. These events have made me realize that family isn't just DNA-based, it's actionable investments in the life of someone you love. Thank you so much for all of the people who helped me in my first thread. I owe all of you for the rest of your lives. Once I turn 21, if any of y'all are in the Aberdeen area, drinks are on me. I hope you all lead wonderful lives. Give your loved ones a big hug for me. The last one is titled, "My brother went missing 6 years ago. Police came yesterday to ask if we have seen him lately but didn't say why. How do we get more information? Illinois. My twin brother went missing on the 23rd of July 2011. He was 19 years old and went out for a run and never came back. We have used every resource at our disposal, police, PIs, etc. And we never found even a hint. It was like he had disappeared from the face of the earth. I don't think there's a PI in town that we haven't hired yet. He hasn't accessed his bank accounts, healthcare, his social media accounts, his emails, nothing. You can imagine how difficult it has been for our family. Yesterday afternoon a police officer came to my place to ask me questions about him. Whether I had seen him lately, if I know where he lives, if I know any of his recent friends, and questions like that. When I asked what this is about and what do they know about him, he said he can't say anything at this time. This same police officer has left a voicemail on my mother's phone asking her for a time to meet to ask her a few questions. I told him everything and begged him to tell me what is going on, but he refused. I went to the police station today but couldn't get any information from them and couldn't find this officer. It's a Saturday after all. I'm going to go again on Monday. What is the best way for me to get some information about what is going on here? By best I mean most likely to succeed. I imagine there's no law that says the police officer is required to tell us if he has learned something about my brother, right? Is there any law or some Freedom of the Information Act or whatever that might help me uncover what is going on? Update. I talked to the officer in charge of the investigation for my brother being missing. They found his name written in a notebook which belonged to a drug trafficker. The officer who was looking for him was wondering if my brother was still missing after talking to the officer in charge of that investigation. 3 days later we received the call that they may have found my brother's remains and they needed DNA samples to confirm. DNA confirmed it was him. What happened was that when he went out that day, he saw his friend and they went to see another friend of his, not my brother. That was a drug-dealing location. Things went bad when my brother was there, and someone was heavily beaten up which my brother and his friend saw. That's when they decided to. His friend was kept silent under the threat for his life he was dealing for them. Recently he was arrested and confessed and reported my brother's murder to get a better deal. The officer says my brother didn't die in pain. It was multiple gunshots. You'd expect after 6 years of playing this possibility in our heads we would have been prepared for it, but we weren't. We had a funeral for him. Now there's a place that I can go and talk to him and at least feel a little closer to him even though he's gone. I thank all of you who helped. Thanks for listening.